How's it going, guys? It's K Cars, and in this video I want to do a driving review of how my Jeep Cherokee XJ drives in the city. So if you guys are new to the channel, this is my 2001 Jeep Cherokee XJ. Let's go ahead and talk about how this Jeep actually handles like real city driving, and talk about different types of issues that I've run in, if any, because let me tell you guys right now, I haven't run into any issues with this Jeep driving in the city. Now, if you guys are also new, I also do have a Dodge Challenger Scat Pack, which I will say is a little bit more stressful driving in the city, just because of things like this, where you have like tight corners or you have to go over huge speed bumps, especially like you guys know, big cities have big parking garages like this. With a Challenger, you really do have to be a little bit more careful, especially with like curbs and stuff like that. If I hit a curb with this Jeep, I literally don't have to worry about it. Stuff like that. If there's like construction going on like here, and every little thing like that, it all adds up to how well a vehicle handles city driving. And I have to say, with this Jeep being a 2001, 20 years old, I'm actually really impressed with how it handles like city driving like this. So the temperature right now today, I would say it's around 80. I really don't have any like major overheating issues with this thing, and I really can't complain about that. The AC works. I have like tight turns like in a parking garage where they're trying to fit as many cars as possible into this little tiny space. Jeep maneuvers it extremely well. Of course, a lot better than the Challenger, because that thing is a lot bigger than this thing. A lot more difficult to maneuver in tight spaces because of how long it is and how big it is. With this thing, it's extremely easy. Obviously, being an old Jeep, it doesn't have very good acceleration. Now, stock to the crank, these things have 190 horsepower from that inline 6 4-liter, which is, you know, one of the most bulletproof and most famous Jeep engines out there. So, I mean, I can't really complain about that, but if I were in a situation where I had to accelerate quickly, then that would probably be an issue, because this thing really can't accelerate very well. And I'm not really complaining about that because it's not made to accelerate well. But if I am in a situation where I need to accelerate, then I would be at more risk for getting into a wreck because I can't accelerate very quick. And another little complaint that I have with this Jeep is that whenever I am like on the highway, like on the interstate, driving like 50 miles an hour or above that, and it goes into the top gear, it has trouble downshifting out of that gear if I need to like accelerate at all, which is not really ideal. A lot of people have told me that the only thing I need to do is adjust the kickdown cable. So I haven't done that. I still need to, but you know, it's not every Jeep has these issues. I'm just saying like my personal issues that I've come across. But of course, everything that I talk about in this video isn't really like a real complaint. It has very easy solutions. I really enjoy driving this Jeep in the city. To be honest, it's actually easier to drive than the Challenger just because of the size of it. Like I was saying, in that parking garage, it's so easy to maneuver because of how small this is, which is why it's such a good off-road vehicle. And especially when you're like driving in an unknown area, you don't know what the potholes are going to be like. You don't know if you're going to scrape on speed bumps like this. You could run across a construction site like right here. There's a huge steel plate. With the Challenger, I would hate to drive over something like this, but with the Jeep, I can literally drive right over it. Huge potholes, see, like no issues whatsoever. With the Challenger, I don't know, that would give me so much anxiety, especially these speed bumps right up here. I feel like I would definitely scrape on these. With the Jeep, you know, got that 3-inch lift suspension. Of course, it would clear those without any kind of issues, completely stock. But just going over some examples of why the Jeep is such a good city driver. The only reason why it would not be good is because, like I mentioned, the acceleration isn't that great. So if you're like in like downtown DC or like a downtown of a huge city, you know, those drivers, the drivers that know the area, are going to be very aggressive, always honking. I always think of like New York City, where people are constantly honking, like the taxi drivers and everything. So I would definitely not like to drive this Jeep in like downtown New York City, but it would definitely be doable. If I had to like park somewhere downtown, then I would like to drive the Jeep just because of how much easier it is to maneuver than the Challenger. But yeah, I mean, my only real complaints when driving in the city are the acceleration and then the braking ability as well. But of course, everything can be solved. Like I can get better brakes or just replace the stock ones that I have now, just get new brake pads and rotors, and it should help the issue. It really is a great city driver. If you're familiar with the area and know like which roads to take to not have to accelerate very fast, then this thing is very good. Like that speed bump right there, I would have for sure scraped with the Challenger. And right here, this is an unknown area for me, which is why I'm glad that I took the Jeep, because there's a huge pothole right there that I just avoided. Another speed bump right here. Of course, with the Challenger, it's doable with the Challenger, but it would be a lot more risky for like scraping and everything. With the Jeep, of course, no issues whatsoever. And when I mentioned like my complaints that it doesn't have good acceleration or good braking, it's enough. Like it's enough to get you from point A to point B in a city if you need to. I'm just saying it's not as good as the Challenger, and of course I can't really compare the two because the Jeep is made to do something completely different than the Challenger, and the Challenger is made to have good acceleration, good braking, and good performance overall. So for a highway driver, I would definitely 100% rather drive the Challenger just because it has much better acceleration. So if I need to like avoid something, avoid a wreck or anything like that, I have much better braking, much better acceleration. So I would not recommend driving a Jeep like this on the highway, but if you're just in the city, you don't have to accelerate fast, then the Jeep is definitely very good. Especially, like I said, if you're in an unknown area, like right here, there's a huge dip. I would most likely scrape on this if I had the Challenger, even though it's really not that, it's not really that like deep of a dip. If I had the Challenger right now, I'd be turning around and going over to that intersection up there because I would not want to risk ripping off the front splitter off of this dip right here. But whenever it's clear, I'll show you guys how easily this Jeep handles something like this. So yeah, I mean, and if there were a car coming up right behind me, then they would have to slam on the brakes because I can't accelerate fast enough to get out of their way. So that's just one little instance or an example of, you know, why the Jeep is very good, but then it also has some downsides when it comes to like acceleration. So, and like I keep saying, it's not made to accelerate fast, so I can't really complain about that. It's just something that you would have to keep in mind if you are going to be driving your old Jeep in a city. And when it comes to like merging lanes, it handles good for what it is. Especially this thing, it's on a 3-inch lift, so it, obviously it's not going to handle like a sports car, but you shouldn't expect it to. And it does have some steering play. Like I'm doing that, and the Jeep really isn't doing anything. So you just have to get used to all these things and know how to react to different situations, I guess. So like you have to give yourself more distance to brake, like more time to react to different situations. So like there's a red light right here. If it turned yellow and I had to like slam on the brakes, then I would just keep going and it would most likely turn red and I would run a red light. But for example, if I were in the Challenger, I could easily stop and I wouldn't have to run a red light. So that's just another example of why like the brakes aren't too good for city driving if you have to like stop for a red light really quickly. Nice C7 Corvette. But yeah, just a few examples of some of the downsides, but the advantages definitely outweigh the disadvantages. And like for city driving, you really don't have to accelerate crazy fast as long as you know how to give yourself more time in certain situations. Like if you're turning right and you have to yield to people coming onto you, then you definitely have to give yourself more room just in case you can't accelerate fast enough to clear the traffic that's coming towards you. So like right there, I knew there weren't any cars coming, so I don't have to like accelerate very fast, and if I saw any cars coming, I wouldn't go, just simply because I knew I wouldn't be able to accelerate fast enough. So just a few different examples of, you know, you have to get used to your Jeep before you can know how much time to give yourself to like react to different situations like that. See, like this little truck right here started to drive out, and my first immediate thought was slam on the brakes if they go any farther, because I knew that if they did keep going, I would not be able to stop and I would hit them. We're in some stop and go traffic right now. One thing I will do, let's go ahead and drive into this parking garage and see how it feels and see how it would compare to driving the Challenger here. Nice Rubicon. All right, so driving into this parking garage, as you guys know, parking garages can be pretty tight. The entrance in this garage, it had like high curbs. So with the Challenger, I would, you know, it's hard to kind of see where the edge of the vehicle is. So it would definitely be a little bit more difficult driving the Challenger than this thing. I'm not gonna like curb a rim or anything because the tires are so big, like the sidewall on the tires are so big, it would just rub the tires. But like with the Challenger, if I rubbed that, I would definitely curb a wheel. And then moving on, we also do have speed bumps here. Of course, you can avoid them pretty easily just by doing this. But of course, if there's cars parked there, you're not gonna be able to avoid speed bumps. So that's one more thing, one more advantage of driving a Jeep in the city, is that you're always gonna have speed bumps and you're not always gonna be able to avoid them. So yeah, I mean, it's extremely easy to maneuver, like I keep saying. Just because of how small this thing is, you can easily go like in and out of these little tight spaces. Turning radius is very good. And of course, I am just comparing everything to the Challenger because I'm used to driving the Challenger in these kind of situations, and I'm also used to driving the Jeep in these situations as well. So that's kind of the best comparison that I can give you guys. And I will say, in a parking garage, it's a whole lot easier to drive this Jeep. All right, let's show you guys how it turns around here. So let's see if we can make this. I'm not gonna risk that, so I'm gonna back up a little bit here. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, no problem turning around. Definitely a whole lot easier driving the Jeep in these kind of like city driving situations. And then one more thing I didn't want to mention is that if it's like a hot day and you have your cooling system up to date, turn on the AC, everything works, no overheating issues. Like I said, it's about 75 degrees out today. Driving around in stop and go traffic, turn the AC on and you'll be fine. So let's go ahead and keep driving around here and show you guys some more driving situations in the city whenever we get out of this garage. All right, so going over the speed bump, another thing that this Jeep is good with is visibility. So going around blind corners like this, you can definitely see a whole lot more. And like I said, with the maneuverability of this thing, as you can see, we took that turn definitely pretty well.